Hello everybody, this is the general assessment feedback for this week's task, or last week's task in fact, the pitch for your individual film projects. So the first thing I'll need to begin with is the assessment criteria, which should hopefully be on screen now. And we are an IB subject, so therefore we are driven by the assessment criteria. And I felt that certainly from the pictures I graded, everybody attempted to address these, and I was particularly pleased with how serious everybody took the process. Most delivered their pictures with confidence and professionalism, and in doing this you gained credit, which were about a third of the marks. I think on the whole, and less frequently, were the students who addressed the criteria about audience engagement. Far too many of the pictures seem to reveal a limited understanding of how film works as a medium of communication. What I mean by that is that by merely sharing your story ideas or addressing issues relevant for young people, that many appeared to think that audiences would just get it, that they would become engaged naturally somehow. The truth is really quite different, which I guess most of you suspect. If this were the case, pretty much every film that were ever made would be a success, and we know that that is not true. So, to engage audiences with a film, you've got to do far more than merely express your story. It essentially comes down to how you use cinematic elements to position your audience in relation to the characters, to make them care about your characters, and if you can manage it, to actually position your audience within the story itself. So you should try to intrigue them, to build a relationship between your characters and the audience so that they care what happens to them. And then you'll need to leave an impression at the end of your 3 minutes. So how could you do this? Well, perhaps you could leave main narrative questions unanswered. Or if you're working within a particular genre, subvert generic or representational expectations, stereotypical expectations, shock your audiences. You need to leave an impression because your examiner will be marking hundreds of these things, so you need to actually leave them with some memory of your work. And I saw little consideration of this in the pictures I marked. And I'm afraid that this demonstrates that most of you aren't thinking filmically yet. That what I was presented with were a lot of expositions of story ideas rather than thinking about how a film communicates ideas or how audiences become engaged. So, for most of you, this is where you'll need to place the most emphasis as you move forward towards your draft screenplays. How your stories are going to make audiences care about your characters or about the issue which you're addressing, and how you will leave your audiences with a lasting impression of what you've done. How are they going to work as films, not just as an exposition of your story ideas? That said, the criteria which addressed the main concepts and story ideas, there were really some really interesting ones pitched. Many were realistic in projecting productions without the need for unnecessary complexity, either in cast or in settings. And many could potentially use personal experience to inform the writing of the screenplays. I thought this was a good idea. It's best to write about what you know, but you need to place what you know in the context of perhaps bigger ideas. I was also pleased that a number of students sought simplification in their ideas, and some of these had potential for extrapolation through the way they use cinematic language to communicate some pretty big ideas, so that was good, and they were the most successful of the pictures. A number of you should be applauded for attempting to use appropriate cinematic language, but please, please, please be absolutely certain of the language which you're using. A long shot is not a shot which lasts a long time. A shot which lasts a long time is a long take. So if you're talking about a long pan, that implies a pan over a landscape, because a long shot describes the focal length of the camera and the distance of the camera from the subject. So please check the way you use terminology. This is one of the things that really irritates examiners.
I'd just like to finish by making the proviso that these observations were informed by the grading of my own section. Other section instructors may have their own general observations to add, and they should be in the replies beneath this announcement. Please read through the replies and comments very carefully if you have any questions, because they may well be addressed already. If you have any questions which aren't addressed by either myself or the other observations made in this announcement, please post them in the replies below and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. And finally, if there are issues specific to your own pitch, you should take that up with your section instructor. Okay, well, thank you for your time and your attention. Bye for now.